Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. This is the second video in my improving my vintage inspired history bounding wardrobe. I wanted a brown skirt that was full and versatile. I also wanted it to close down the centre front with buttons. I couldn't find many vintage references in terms of patterns, but I do think it has a vintage look about it. For this, I bought way too much of this brown wool blend suiting. It is a really nice weight. This was very affordable, about £5 per metre, and I was actually able to make 2 skirts out of it, with some left over. My first step was to draft the pattern. This is a straight up circle skirt. I don't have any instructions for this, but I will link down below the tutorial that taught me how to draft circle skirts. After making it up though, I realised this style, with the buttons down the front, would work better with a less full skirt, like a half circle. I pinned my pattern to my fabric. For circle skirts, you often have to cut them in half circles and then sew them together. However, my fabric was wide enough for that while folded, the pattern still worked. I then doubled the layers and was able to cut a full circle in one go. So I then cut down one of the ends to make the centre front opening. I left the skirt to hang overnight so that it could stretch on the bias. I then laid it back down and measured it against my pattern. To my surprise, it hadn't warped at all. However, this was a lie. Looking at my finished photos now, it was quite clear that the fabric warped, particularly at the centre front and centre back. I might attempt to re-hem it, but it doesn't bother me too much. The next step was to prepare the centre front. For this, I added fusible interfacing to both edges, one on the wrong side and one on the right side of the fabric. Then I folded the raw edge inwards by ½ inch and then by a full inch. I had added this allowance to my waist measurement to make sure that the waist radius I drafted allowed this. I ironed these button plackets into place and basted them. I did a lot of basting on this as the fabric was a little slippery. It was then top stitched by machine. I then went ahead and marked my buttonholes and did them by machine. My machine is quite temperamental when it comes to buttonholes. Today was a good day. I then went ahead and cut out my waistband. This is just the measurement of the top of the skirt plus seam allowance and twice the width plus seam allowance. I wanted quite a hefty waistband. I also added fusible interfacing to this. I kind of regret this now, as this is for my day-to-day wardrobe, I find that fusible interfacing kind of gives up on life after going in the wash. I then folded the waistband in half and then turned one long edge inwards by 1/2 inch, ironing it in place. I sewed the 2 short ends with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I then clipped and trimmed the seam and turned the waistband the right side out. I pinned the waistband on, matching at the centre front. I basted it and then sewed it on with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I trimmed this seam with pinking shears and then turned the waistband over so that the iron edge was now on the inside. This was whip stitched down by hand. One final buttonhole on the waistband. To hem the skirt, I sewed 1/4 inch away from the edge. I then used this as a marking to turn the raw edge inwards twice. It was very fiddly, so the best way I found for me to do this was to turn in by 1/4 inch, pin and baste, then turn over again, pin and sew back machine. found these cute little wooden buttons online and decided to use them. I then went about drafting the pockets. As the circle skirt didn't have side seams, I decided patched on pockets would work better, and there were plenty of mid-century patterns that featured them. I worked out a shape and placement on my dress form and then used the pattern to cut them out of my wool blend. Then I turned the raw edges inwards, pinning and basting the raw edges. I cut the same pattern out of fusible interfacing without seam allowance, and then ironed it over the raw edges, covering them and adding stability to the pocket. I pinned them in place and basted them. I then sewed them on by machine, first at 1/4 inch from the edge and then 1/8 from the edge, for strength. And that was that. This was a quick little project and I love the outcome. It's very swishy and comfy. It does drape a little awkwardly at the front due to the closure and the fullness of the skirt. And as I mentioned, the hem isn't even, but I love it all the same. Thank you for watching.